I tested every single team for Soldier Zero Anby, 39 different teams in total, and the results might shock you. Is what I would say, but it honestly is kinda as expected. The premium teams did the best among all tests, but you are probably here for the free-to-play team, so yeah, let's not waste any time any further. If you're interested in how to play and build Soldier Zero Anby in the first place, I would recommend you to watch my full and complete in-depth guide on her right here. You will find a link also in the description. First things first, the setup. Soldier Zero Anby uses Marcato R5, all stunners are using the craftable steam oven at R5 outside of Caesar, who uses her signature, and the supports are using either Kaboom, Bashful Demon or the Vault at R5. I made 5 runs for every single team and only recorded the worst runs, and at 39 tested teams that makes 195 runs in total. Yeah, I spent my Monday and Tuesday very effectively. To reduce the video time a little bit, I will summarize some of the teams, especially the non-free-to-play ones. That said, let's begin. Overall, the best time I've gotten has been a Caesar Astra team with Soldier Zero Anby using her signature at 58 seconds, and that will be our baseline going forward. However, as this video is focused on the free-to-play teams, we will mostly talk about those and the respective pros and cons and my experience playing with these. Starting with the classic stun support setups, overall I felt it being pretty underwhelming. Soldier Zero Anby really likes her field time, and most stunners outside of Pultra take that away from her, and this made most stun teams feel somewhat awkward. Regardless, let's begin with Anby teams. When paired with Lucy, the team felt overall relatively smooth. Anby by herself only needs to be switched in when she has enough energy or her ultimate up, and that allows for enough time for Soldier Zero to do what she does best, and that is attacking. Lucy only needs to be switched in every so often as well, and overall the team has had the best performing time out of all free-to-play Anby teams, while also being the easiest to play. When playing with Nicole, we have had a much harder time to maintain her buff, but the overall gameplay is similar to a Lucy team. While she can give, in theory, more damage than Lucy can, we want to make sure to use her EX or ultimate shortly before we have as much energy as possible to proc as many marks as possible within the 7 to 8 seconds as we can. A bit harder to play, and that shows in the time, but overall its potential is higher than Lucy's. Sokaku did surprisingly perform very similar to Nicole in her worst time, but overall Sokaku just feels clunky to me. If you like her, she is a fine choice and will perform similar to a badly played Nicole within a double Anby team, while also mostly waiting for energy and switching in shortly before the stun window. Surprisingly to me as well, I found impact in slot 6 on her in this team specifically to make the difference between getting a stun window sometimes or, well, not getting it. Overall a fine choice, but personally Sokaku is at least not my cup of tea. Pairing Anby with Pulchra at Mindscape 6 has honestly not been a great idea, and while the team was able to consistently stun early, Soldier Zero was simply missing a lot of damage to actually make use of the given stun windows. Lastly, the half premium team Anby Astra, and to be honest, any Astra team performed pretty well, because, well, Astra is broken, so if you have her, use her. But then again, any team kinda wants Astra. To summarize, a double Anby team did surprisingly well, and I personally would recommend an Anby Lucy team as the premium free-to-play choice, at least if you want to play Anby. Next up is our newcomer Pulchra. Quick self-promotion here, go watch my Pulchra guide, a link is in the description after the video is released. Pulchra has been very up and down, and honestly I blame that on me trying to learn how to play her. Playing with her feels very different and not necessarily bad, but Pulchra in itself is not the greatest. However, as you will notice, in between my worst times there has been one which has been standing out. This mostly means that I simply can't play the team well, but it more so also shows the potential said team might have. At Mindscape 0, Pulchra performed very similarly to Anby, but it was simply more fun to play. However, Pulchra also forces quick swaps, which often resulted in me wasting a lot of time trying to even switch to my support unit. This resulted in Nicole and Sukaku being much harder to maintain their respective uptimes with. And while I had the same problem initially with Lucy when attempting my trials with Mindscape 6 Pulchra, I suddenly got a 97-second run simply because Lucy's buff lasts much longer than Sukaku's and Nicole's. Well, and frankly, I also play much more Lucy. Regardless, the team with Lucy has been much easier to play and is probably a pretty good and honestly in my opinion probably even the best free-to-play choice after getting used to how Pulchra works. For Pulchra's half premium teams at both M0 and M6 when paired with Astra, she did well, but surprisingly also not too far ahead of Lucy. Overall, if you like Pulchra's playstyle, she is probably one of her best choices if you can get used to her. And that have been all out of the free-to-play stunners already, which means we are now quickly going to summarize the premium stunner teams, namely Qingyi and Kolleda. To finish Kolleda quickly, it sucked. Hard, like a lot. While Kolleda can stun incredibly fast within the first rotation, she kinda lacks the energy to do it again a second time, and because we are missing damage buffs, it was impossible to kill the corruption complex within a single stun window. If you decide to play Kolleda regardless, or you have her Mindscape 2, which should alleviate at least the second rotation stun problem a little bit, Astra has been a very good teammate. But honestly, only Astra that is. Personally, as much as I like Kolleda, I would not recommend her for a Soldier Zero Anby team unless paired with Astra, and on top of that, Fire and Electric have not been paired well so far due to the enemy resistances and weaknesses. Next up, Qingyi. While you might think that Qingyi is her best partner, I have a surprise for you. She isn't. But she also isn't the worst. Caesar, Astra and surprisingly Lucy have done the best, with Lucy getting the best worst time overall. Man, the best worst. That sounds weird. Quickly off topic, but if you wonder why I only recorded the worst time, that is simply to also include mistakes and non-perfect play. Not everyone has the time to reset a single stage 20 times to get one single perfect run, and in my opinion this fits a free-to-play focused video better than perfect runs do. Anyway, back to Qingyi. From my experience so far, Qingyi team's biggest problems are the field time she wants to share with Soldier Zero Anby. Corruption Complex instantly gaining 15% days whenever he gets impaired is not really helping this either. I often found myself either missing energy on Sanby or not being able to get full stacks on Qingyi. With enough tries and practice, the team can work pretty well, but it is probably better against any enemy not called the Corruption Complex. Overall, I think Qingyi teams are a fine choice, but nothing outstanding either. If you were to play a premium team already anyway, I would recommend going all in with either Astra, Caesar or Lucy. Also, a quick shout out to Pulchra, who did surprisingly well in this team as well. Generally speaking, regarding stun teams, Pulchra consistently has been within the upper half, and Kolleda teams take every single spot on, well, the bottom half. Fortunately for us, the real winner for Soldier Zero Anby teams have been the double support teams. Well, kind of, at least that is the case when we include the premium teams, otherwise it is actually not looking too great. Any double support team, including 2 out of Nicole, Lucy and Sukaku, have not been much better than the double Anby teams, ranking at 110, 123 and again 110 seconds respectively. They also felt very awkward to play for me, especially the Sukaku and Nicole teams felt to me like it needs a very specific energy tuning to line up their buffs with Sanby's damage windows. Personally, I would not recommend those teams, but if you were to play one, Lucy and Nicole felt the smoothest to me. This might just be my disliking for Sukaku, however. For the premium teams, as we have already seen before, any team with Astra does well. You know, just Astra things. However, the by far best time I've gotten has been with Astra and Caesar. Not only when using Sanby's signature weapon, if you remember that has been our baseline, but also without at 68 seconds, which has only been 17% slower than using her signature. It also felt really nice to play, as you basically only play Anby at that point and you just ignore the other 2 units. Lastly, Caesar Pulchra teams have been performing the worst. Generally speaking, if you own either Astra or Caesar, pairing one of those with another support has not only been performing the best in terms of time, but it also felt the best to play. To summarize, as you also might have already noticed by the somewhat unusual high times, I honestly feel like Soldier Zero Anby is still missing a good off-field stunner, and given from the info we have gotten from the livestream, Trigger might just be what she actually needs. While free-to-play teams can still clear within a somewhat reasonable time, having any of the premium units, and by that I mean either Caesar or Astra or both, will increase your damage significantly. This also shows how obtaining a strong support for your account is much more important than any of the signature weapons. Well, maybe outside of Miyabi's, that is. And with that, I hope the video has been a helpful insight into the various currently available Soldier Zero teams and might help you to decide which team you want to go for. Also, if you haven't built your Lucy yet, do it. Peace.